What's up, YouTube? Back at it again with another banger video. We're continuing our series of Superman for all seasons. Last time, in part 1, we saw Clark Kent in Smallville, graduate high school, move to Metropolis, become a reporter, and he's finally become Superman, and Lex Luthor is a bit jealous of this new guy in town. So let's just jump into part 2, Summer. As I said before, each chapter in this book is broken up into the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. It's not necessarily the same year, though. So while each chapter takes place in a certain season, there are gaps in time. This could be several years later. We know Superman has been around for a while at this point. Also, in the last part, I mentioned that each chapter is narrated by a different character. Chapter 2 is narrated by Lois Lane, and she's talking about tips that Perry gave her as a journalist, things to keep in mind, and she says that none of those rules apply when talking about Superman. All logic goes out the window. She says it's all BS. BS stands for before Superman. A lot of this architecture, it reminds me of the cartoon. That cartoon was such a great adaptation of the Superman character. Probably one of the best. I would take it over any of the movies, honestly. I think it gets overshadowed a lot by Batman the Animated Series, just because Batman came first and it was a longer running show. Superman could definitely hold its own against that show, in my opinion. Again, this book is just full of these dramatic double-page spreads. This is impressive because you draw Superman once, and now you have to draw the character again in the reflection with just color. And that can be difficult. So, Superman, he catches this missile flying into the city. He takes it out into space. He lets it explode in outer space where it can't hurt anybody. He comes back down to Earth. Now he has to find where the missile came from. So he flies down into the ocean. You see a LexCorp ship in the background. See Lex Luthor. Now we get an underwater shot. So much blue in this comic. This is a very blue comic. And he finds a sub. Some terrorists aboard this sub. They say, Captain, unidentified object approaching. Estimated impact in. And before he can even say when, Superman has already hit their sub. And we see the silhouette of someone hiding aboard this sub. And then we go to Metropolis Air Base. Long limousine pulling up. It's Lex Luthor. And Superman is carrying the submarine above his head. Lands at the airbase. And he tears it open. And all the terrorists are arrested. One of them grabs Lois Lane. She was the stowaway, of course, in the submarine. He grabs her, holds her hostage, pulls back the hammer on his gun, and he's betting Superman. He's saying, "Let's see if you really are faster than a speeding bullet." And of course, Lex Luthor, his first reaction is to start negotiating with the terrorists, and Superman darts, grabs the gun, and crushes it before the guy can pull the trigger. Lois crushes his toe and elbows him and karate chops him in the back of the neck. Lex Luthor offers Lois a ride in his limousine We saw them on a date last issue. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but yeah, they were on a date before, and now she'd rather take a ride home with Superman. He drops her off at the roof of the Daily Planet, and as she takes the elevator back downstairs, we see Clark Kent. Missed all the action again, of course. How come he's never around when Superman is? We see the color palette is always reminding us of Superman with the red, white, with the red, the blue, the yellow. We get Clark Kent in bed again, the same pose as before when we saw him last issue. He starts feeling lonely. He decides to go back home, visit his dad. And see, this is the best way that you could possibly do this, in my opinion. You don't want to have to draw millions and millions of stalks of corn. Because eventually, like, once you get back here, it's just going to be black. It's just the whole thing. If you're trying to draw every single stalk of corn, the best you can do is draw some of these up here, draw around your focal point, and some in the immediate foreground, and then just let it fade away off into the background. We see a lot of it's done with color, but you could do this in black and white too. Just start drawing less and less of them as you go further back. Sort of an atmospheric perspective trick. Clark has dinner with his family. He mentions that he wants to go visit Lana. He goes to her house. He sees the pastures out front. He learns that Lana's aunt has passed away and that Lana's left. He meets up with Pete again. Pete still rubs the old elephant head. So even though it's been years, some things never change, especially in Smallville. The same guys are hanging out at this table. And Pete's the guy who grew up in a small town and never leaves. This is the Norman Rockwell painting reference that I mentioned in the last video. Clark says that even with all the good he's done, he still feels out of place in the city. And coming back to Smallville, now it's different too. And his mom comforts him. But you'll find your own way, you always have. Cut back to Metropolis. There's a huge fire at Kimco Labs. We see these guys in these robotic suits, sort of like Iron Man suits. Here in the Lex Luthor colors, you know, the green and purple. The secondary colors are normally reserved for bad guys or you know, anti-hero characters. You know, not normally someone who's just like a straight up good guy. You know, those characters are usually primary colors, like Superman, like Captain America, like Wonder Woman, like Thor. It's just something that you notice when reading a lot of comic books, especially. So Superman saves this woman. She was dying in this fire at this chemical laboratory. Lex Luthor sent these guys to stop the fire, but they were taking too long. And they weren't really being effective. So Superman had to take charge and save this woman. And then he creates this vacuum, and it sucks up the fire, sucks up the flames, and he leads it out there into the ocean. So Superman immediately suspects Luthor as starting this fire in this lab so that he could have his guys come put it out. It would be good publicity. Now we flash forward a little bit. Lex Luthor is going to visit this woman who was saved from the Kimco lab fire. He sees the Daily Planet newspaper says, "He is my angel." It's a quote from her talking about Superman. And Lex Luthor decides that he needs to go visit this woman personally. When he gets up there, he speaks to her, and he finds out that she has a Superman obsession. And he says to her, "Then together, my dear, we can help Superman in ways you've only dreamt of." So Lex Luthor's plan is to manipulate this woman who idolizes Superman to get her to do his bidding. You'll see more of it in Chapter 3. So tune in next part when we read Fall. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.